We are doing a 7A podcast with Decker and Ferry. And hello, Soy.
Hi.
Hello there. And what is our topic?
Well, I figured maybe we could start out by asking each of them how they started out in the BDSM community. So, what was your vicious spider bite that brought you here?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I've been in the lifestyle since I was old enough to experiment sexually. Uh, Even my virginity story is a little different than most. I felt um, I felt guilty that I couldn't have sex with him because I was a virgin, so I offered him my best friend instead. So we had a threesome.
Oh, nice.
I was already having group sex right off the bat, and I just felt really natural in a sexual environment. So even at a really young age, I just became really comfortable right away.
Mhm.
It made it easier for me to get involved with the more risque types of sexual activity.
All right, okay.
So
Decker, what about you?
This might be a difficult question for her, but it's an impossible one for me. I really have no idea how I ended up where I am. Uh, it was, it seemed seamless at the time. I was exposed to sex at a young age, and I've been a part of the community since before I should talk about it. But um, I don't know. I grew up in a very sheltered home, so I didn't really have a whole lot of outlets for the stuff that I ended up being exposed to. So most of my interaction was online social interaction and those types of things, role play, playing games, just talking to people. And it always had a certain type of outlook that I never really could explain, and I didn't know why. Um, it wasn't until I actually started getting into the community itself, and when I was around 17, 18, and I started realizing what all the different things were, what the terms were, that there were other people out there that were like me, that made me realize I wasn't as fucked up as I seemed.
Okay.
I have no idea what the trigger was, to be honest.
So if for the both of you, it kind of just came naturally. You just always had sort of felt this way.
Right.
Okay. And and I didn't even know this because what even BDSM even stood for, and I had to look that up because people would talk about it, and I knew the dominance, no, the sadist and masochism, but not the first part, the dominance and submission and all of that.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
Well, I think there's a big difference between, a kink lifestyle and a BDSM lifestyle.
right.
BDSM is like a class of kink. It's like
Hmm.
a type of kink. And if you're specifically asking, how I got into the BDSM lifestyle, I definitely have a trigger. I was brought into the BDSM lifestyle at a young age as a submissive, believe it or not, because I was taught that as a female, my role was to be a submissive if I wanted to play in BDSM.
Hmm.
And it was just the way I believed it had to be because that was just what I was told and what I was taught because I didn't know any better. And I was used and abused, and I had terrible partners, and I was never happy with what I was doing. I was always just felt like I was doing it because everybody told me I had to, and I didn't like my lifestyle and my role. And for a really long time in my life, I completely turned away from the kink lifestyle. And I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I don't like it. It's not for me. And then I met someone who was a switch and someone that I learned that I really cared for deeply. And I thought that I wasn't going to be able to be with them because they were too kinky for me. But they turned and said, you know what? I'm willing to try both ways with you and let's see what works. And we started experimenting and communicating. Um, sometimes we would just stop in the middle and be like, you know what, sorry, this isn't working, and move on to something else. And it just took a couple of years, but we both just realized that just maybe reversing my role would help. And it helped me learn that there are things that I do enjoy doing for my partner that may be kinky or BDSM, that doesn't have to be submissive, and I learned that I could do things that were in the BDSM realm that didn't have to put me in a position that I was uncomfortable. I could actually feel empowered, and feel good about what I was doing. And now I've learned that, I enjoy giving. So being a service top and offering, a dominant presence for someone who needs that kind of guidance in their life is something that I truly, genuinely enjoy doing, instead of feeling I just have to do it that way. So having a partner that was willing to kind of turn around and teach me a different way of looking at things made all the difference in the world in my lifestyle.
Nice.
I could start ranting all night about that kind of stuff. It really gets under my skin, the gatekeeping aspect of BDSM.
Well, since we're kind of on that subject, we could definitely dip into our first topic, which is responsibilities of a dominant partner. So, Decker, if you want to start off.
Yeah, I can do that. I've always been, as far as I know, I've always been a dominant. And, well, it's not necessarily true. I've always been a dominant in the community, but the way that I was raised, I had a very very submissive kind of background growing up. Not like in a BDSM way, but just the fact that the only thing I cared about was trying to make everybody happy and bending over backwards if I couldn't. And it wasn't for a long time that I realized that it's not sustainable. You cannot make everybody happy. It's impossible. And at some point you have to look out for yourself. But as far as roles and responsibilities of a dominant, you have a responsibility for someone else. If you take on a submissive, you have a responsibility for them and to them. That's just the way that it is. And in my opinion, my background always basic, always bending over backwards for everybody and always putting everybody else first and always trying to please everybody. It gave me a unique perspective into the role of a submissive, which I believe is important. I'm not trying to say that I ever was a submissive, but I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with it, just because the more knowledge you have, the more you're going to be able to do for your partner if you're submissive. I do believe in the philosophy of you need to be able to follow before you can lead, or at least to do it well. And understanding the role of a submissive really helps someone become a better dominant, especially getting to know your submissive in particular.
Right. And most people don't realize, but the submissive really is the one in control. So,
Right, they're giving the control. Yeah,
the
absolutely.
consent. Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah. Because like
It's
for a long time I thought that I was more dominant, and everyone said that I have a dominant presence or look. But then just as I get older and you learn more about yourself, and then I realized that I'm like totally submissive. I'm just a brat.
well,
So
yeah, you
it's like
can.
this false dominance that I'm giving out, but doesn't necessarily make me dominant.
Yeah, it's not a false dominance or false submission. You can have a strong personality. You can not take shit from people and still be a submissive. Some of the best
Oh, of
submissives that
course.
I've ever known were like the strongest and the most upfront in your face kind of people that you could ever meet. It just takes
Oh yeah.
Well,
just takes a
on the flip side of the role of a dominant, there's a role of the submissive too. It's important that the submissive knows what they want and what they need, so that they can
Hmm.
properly communicate to that to their dominant partner. And then
oh
it's
yeah,
the
that's
dominant partner's job to listen and communicate their ability or inability to provide those needs to that submissive.
Hmm. Absolutely.
absolutely, and that's a two-way street though. That's not just submissive to a dominant; it's also dominant to submissive. It's 100% a two-way street. Both sides require communication. Both sides require taking care of the other, because no matter how much control the dominant has, the submissive still has the same amount of control in a certain aspect. That relationship, that dynamic only exists as long as both people want to be there. And if one side isn't getting what they need, then it's not going to work.
Exactly.
You need to build your dynamic on communication. It is the most important thing. And I literally every rant that I've ever put in the Kink channel, revolves around communication,
Of course.
and you have to talk about it. You have to talk about everything all the time, and it's
Yeah,
it's it's
the
tricky
unfortunate,
sometimes.
yeah, people don't like to talk about uncomfortable subjects. They would
They
rather avoid it and pretend it doesn't exist and let it blow up into something bad or come out in an unhealthy way, like in a bad session where like whatever, you're getting annoyed with each other for not communicating, and the next thing you know, your beating went too far, or whatever could happen that could create a very uncomfortable or negative scene between two people. So getting people to talk about those uncomfortable things is a tough one, and that takes a lot of trust and time and patience. Becoming a dominant and a submissive in a BDSM scenario does not happen overnight.
Oh no.
It takes
Well, that's
you
the
know
common misconception that I hear about subs constantly is that from at least people who I find that are inexperienced, they they hear the word someone is submissive and they automatically think that, oh, I can dom this person, she's submissive, and they automatically think, without any connection or any knowledge of that person. So that's something that people don't really understand, that just because someone is submissive doesn't mean they're going to submit to you specifically.
Yeah, and I'll start getting heated if we talk about that too much.
Yeah.
But absolutely, yeah, communication both ways. Talk before a scene, during a scene, after a scene,
Mhm.
and
Can you explain what a
it's
scene is?
a scene. Basically, it's a pre-negotiated type of play that can revolve around just about anything, but it can be something as in depth as I can't talk about a lot of things. Um, it can be as in depth as just a full on scene, like say, I guess I can talk about primal, like a primal hunt scene, or just a light flogging. I mean, anything
Sure.
can be a scene. It's just you talk about it beforehand and what's going to happen, and expectations or
Right.
whatever it is you need to talk about, and then there's a beginning and there's an end. That's, I guess, the simplest way that I can explain it.
Well, now, do scenes only happen in places like dungeons, or that can happen like anywhere,
Oh,
like in private or?
It can happen anywhere. It can
Oh,
happen in your own bedroom, like my,
mhm.
my former lover and I used to have, ritualistic type scening in a certain
Okay.
space in our home. And, it'd be certain times of the day, and we would plan it out, because there's, some people like role play, for example, I want
Mhm.
you to be a certain character and I'm going to be this character and I want this to be the scenario. And, you take control of how it plays out, I want to get caught masturbating and I want you to punish me for it. Okay, so now we know that beforehand. We know that I'm going to walk in on you. We know that you're going to be masturbating, and we know that there's going to be a punishment. So I'm going to take over and I'm going to administer a punishment that I know this person is going to enjoy because we've practiced our punishments before. I know their limits. We know what's going to be okay. So I'm going to administer that punishment. They're going to go through the scene. And then at the end, we're going to complete it. And then I'm going to provide the aftercare. And then we'll discuss what was great about that. What can we do better next time? Was that perfect? And then we've got, this beautiful experience we've shared together.
Oh, that's great. Ooh la la.
I guess our next topic would be poly and the lifestyle. Fairy, since this was a bright topic for you, I'd say you'd start off.
I love poly because I love love. I'm a huge hippie at heart, and I have this spirit of a fairy and the soul of a gypsy. So there's so much love inside of me. And I've deeply explored emotional connections with people throughout my entire exploration. And the one thing that I've learned is that when you get intimate with people, even if it's just a spanking, even if it's just making impact on someone, you're creating a bond, you're creating a connection. And it's up to you how deep you want that connection to go, but you shouldn't limit yourself to the connection you have with someone just because of a connection you have with someone else. I feel like, humans often limit themselves so much because of fear and, whatever emotional insecurities and hangups. And there's so much beauty in sharing connection, and especially sharing connection with people that you feel connected with. That's even more beautiful.
Hmm.
So for me, I think poly is so important in the lifestyle, especially if you're playing in like a big BDSM community where you're sharing slaves and partners, and people are playing in front of each other, and you're having big group experiences. Being comfortable around other people, being comfortable sharing intimate experiences around other people, that's it's a big part of the community. So I believe very strongly in helping educate and helping people work through their own hangups and issues to help them see how beautiful sharing those connections can be.
Or maybe even like dispelling some of the like stigmatisms and stuff that hang up on poly or polyamorous people, and people think that it's, oh, that's the sex thing, right? Like they think it's purely, just sex. They don't understand that it's something where you're sharing, you know, intimacy, either your thoughts or otherwise, not just thing. It's like you said, giving love or affection to another human. Yeah.
Or giving any kind of service for
Any sort of,
people.
yeah. Because that's where a lot of people get hung up on, where they think it's like purely sexual, not necessarily of the mind, just your base needs.
Absolutely. Just being able to sit with someone with your arms around them and give them
Yeah.
the comfort of human contact can create a loving bond that can be stronger than throwing somebody up against the wall and fucking the shit out of them.
Not that we don't love that, but
Yeah, not that that's not.
They both are equal. They both are equal is what I'm saying. Like,
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
it's powerful. So people get all hung up, and it breaks my heart sometimes when people are like, oh, my man can go fuck whoever he wants, but if he kisses her, it's over. And it's like, that's such a shame, because it shouldn't make a difference. You guys should be able to share each other's positive experiences and support each other, and then turn around and create that together.
Oh yeah, communication is key.
Absolutely. Or the common thing that I also do that because I'm too loyal to my partner. That's another that irks me when people say that about, like polyamorous people aren't loyal, which that's another misconception.
Someone asked me once, at what point is a poly person truly happy? And I think what they meant was, how many partners do you really need, or whatever, and
Right, they don't understand, yeah.
it's not about that. I was like, I believe a poly person is truly happy when they know that the people that they truly love and deeply care about truly love and deeply care about them back, and just as equally.
Right, and it fulfills you. It's not, you don't feel like you need to spread your love more.
Right. Or something doesn't have to be wrong with you, be poly. Everything can be peachy keen, and you just want to, express yourself, to other people, and give affection to other people as well. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're disloyal, because that's where the communication comes in.
Right. Yeah, because if you're being dishonest and hiding things, and
then that's totally different. That's cheating.
That's cheating.
Yeah.
Tucker, do you have any thoughts?
I've got many thoughts, and they all basically echo everything that's already been said. And my favorite word, the C word, is back: communication. It's really what makes poly work. And I've had to have that conversation with multiple people many times that just don't understand, because they can't wrap their head around the concept of sharing something like that with multiple people. And either they don't understand the power of communication, or like you said, they feel like it's not loyal, or whatever their reason is. But communication is key, and with communication, basically anything becomes possible. So it's not always easy. I've been mono for most of my life up until recently, until I started exploring poly. And communication is what made it possible. I mean, along with other things, but it's not always easy. And one of the misconceptions is, oh, so like, do you not get jealous? Well, of course people get jealous. Jealous is a natural human emotion. It's
Mm-hmm.
just it's something that people experience, but that's why you talk about it. And the thing about communication is it's not gumdrops and rainbows and shiny sparkly farts and shit, because a lot of things that you talk about are painful to talk about. They hurt.
Yep, it can
They're
be uncomfortable.
uncomfortable. And those are the kinds of talks and communication that are the most important, because
Mm-hmm.
you if you don't talk about those things, then they're just going to sit under the surface. You're going to make assumptions. You're going to start thinking the worst. You're going to start thinking about the worst about them. You're going to think of the worst about you, and it's just going to spiral out of control until somebody blows up, like was mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about these things, it's not always going to be easy, but it's important to do them, because in the end, after you get it out in the open, if the other person is mature enough to realize that you're just talking and you're talking about the things that are worrying you or bugging you or upsetting you, and then you can still look each other in the eye and still care about each other, then none of the rest of it matters.
And it
So,
builds such a stronger bond when you can get through those
It
deeper
does.
of
parts,
course. Oh yeah,
You can really
definitely.
see through to those really true moments of each other. When you're literally crying in each other's faces, those are the true parts of yourself that are coming out, and that brings you so much closer to each other.
Oh, it definitely does.
Really.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like instead of, because I had never felt jealousy in that way, like if like because I'm married, and if like my husband, we laugh about this, because instead of being like, oh my god, looking at that girl, it's like, oh, you're looking at that girl, is she hot? Like
Yeah, like, damn, look at the ass on that girl.
yeah,
Like tapping them, like, look. Oh yeah, I've been there.
oh yeah, love that. Oh my goodness.
All right, well, let's move on to the next topic, which is group sex and ways to make it a comfortable experience.
All right, Fairy, take it away.
All my favorite topics. Well, to your point, communication is key. Something that's really helpful is, starting a group sex experience with making it kind of a social engagement. So creating a space where everybody can have a moment to just kind of open up, say who they are, what they're there for, what their kind of like hopes, dreams, desires, boundaries, and fears would be. So, what are they hoping to get out of it? What are they afraid of or nervous about? And what are they absolutely not willing to do? So everybody
Mhm.
kind of has an idea right off the bat, like, okay, this person's here with so and so looking to explore this, but they're not willing to do that, and you kind of have a little idea.
So plan it. So you would say
Yeah.
that planning is better than spontaneous, or
Yeah, well, if you're gonna host a group sex experience,
Mhm.
definitely having some sort of structure, a loose structure, because you don't want to make it too structured, because then people get uncomfortable. But a
Mhm.
loose structure to give people kind of a purpose to be there. Okay, we're meeting to do this, so we're all gonna kind of sit down and discuss this together before we take off all of our clothes and get into a pile. But yes, exactly. Planning it out, having open communication amongst the entire group, and then just creating a softly lit, quiet space with comfortable places to, rest the bodies, be it sofas or beds or,
Mhm.
mattresses and so forth. And then having someone who's there to kind of touch as like almost in a BDSM scene, to be like a dungeon master, so to speak.
Mhm.
To be kind of overseeing, making sure everybody's comfortable, making sure everybody has what they need, nobody's feeling left out. That everybody's kind of having a chance to express something that they're looking for in the experience. So creating a welcoming and open space to be comfortable exploring sexual experiences is one of the most important parts of play, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And I've never been to like a dungeon ever, and I've always wanted to, but I have no idea what to expect. or something like that, as far as sharing, because me being submissive, and like if I were to participate, absolutely, like I think that's just the topic of the day, is communication. People that you can talk to be like, okay, this I like, this I don't like, and figuring things out. Yeah, so I guess planning would be better than spontaneous in that regard.
Sure. And then when you're looking in the BDSM community specifically, and you're looking at like a BDSM party where there may or may not be, penetrative or sexual play, but there's
Mhm.
definitely going to be kinky experiences, having sanitation and safety covered, proper safety protocols. If there's going to be furniture or toys available, that
Mhm.
there's proper cleaning supplies to be used before and after use, that those protocols are expressed to all the guests as they arrive, which is once again what like a dungeon master would kind of be responsible for. They'd be overseeing that these things would be happening, that the cleaning would be happening, that like proper limits are being followed. So if they hear a sub yelling red and the dom isn't stopping, that
Mhm.
dungeon master would step in and say, hey, we need to discuss your safe words, because right now it's appearing that you're not applying your
Mhm.
safe words correctly. So having someone who's available to kind of ensure a safe and consensual environment is also really important for any kind of group play. And a lot of
Yeah.
people find that they have a hard time. Like, okay, for me, for example, I know for when I'm in a group sex situation or a group play situation, I find it very difficult to become a receiver because
Mhm.
I'm so engaged mentally in what's going on. I'm constantly like, I'm hyper aware of what everybody's doing, and who's doing what and what's happening to me and what am I doing to someone else. And I'm so up in my head that a lot of time it's hard to get down into the body and really feel what's happening, and from a sensation standpoint. So it it becomes that becomes, I think, the biggest challenge, is getting people to get out of their head and kind of let go of all the little fruit flies that are happening, and let go of everything that's surrounding them, and just kind of sink in and enjoy the experience for what it is. And there's a lot of different exercises that can be done to assist in that. One being like creating a group exercise where you partner off into groups, and have one person be the designated receiver and the other people be designated givers. And within that person's boundaries, spend 15 minutes focusing entirely on giving to that one person, and then switching partners every 15 minutes until everybody's had a chance to give and everybody's had a chance to receive.
Everybody's satisfied.
And it's this really great. And then
Mhm.
if everybody wants to, go break off and have fun with the people you had, really awesome experiences with. And then you've got this really great, dynamic between all these people that are kind of getting to know each other and
It's
feeling
like
out each other's.
it's like playing Pokemon in a group full of people. Like, who had the best stick again? Which one were you? Shit.
Especially if you make them wear blindfolds.
Yeah.
That sounds more like speed dating, but naked.
Speed fucking. Hello.
Speed fucking.
Speed orgy.
Oh my goodness.
Decker, do you have any experience in group sex?
No, not really.
Is it something you're interested in doing in the future?
I mean, it's really entirely dependent on who I'm with and the people that are there, and just whether or not I feel comfortable for it, and
Yeah, for sure.
if I have a partner,
Mhm.
if I'm comfortable with it. I'm not opposed, and it's definitely something that I'd like to experience. It's just not something that I've really planned out.
Right. Because it's always best to be safe as well. I mean, because like I would think you would definitely need to know the person a little
Yeah.
bit, rather than just meeting someone that day and then wham bam. I don't know. Might be. I mean, do your thing, but it just sounds so risky.
And once again, communication is key. There should always be
Of course.
discussion, at least the elevator talk, which is, hey, let's talk about our sexual health. Let's talk about our plan for procreation. Let's talk about
Right.
how we plan on handling this emotionally. Okay, ready, set, go. There
Right.
should at least be the basics covered before you take your clothes off and jump into genitalia contact. And of course,
Because
there should always be
it's just health wise. Yeah.
exactly protection and cleanliness and sanitation. Those things are all important.
Hmm. Have you ever, Ferry? Have you ever attended a party like that?
Oh yes.
Uh,
Many.
oh my goodness.
I've only attended one, and it was an experience, that's for sure.
Was it an eye opener?
You could say that.
Is that a good thing? Or
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. It was just, I kind of went in not realizing that there were going to be so many people.
oh, I see.
It was fun though.
See, I don't know if I can.
It was a good time.
Like that. Like I always feel like I can, but I'm a more reserved person. And even though I am polyamorous, like I feel like I need to know people like a lot more. Like we need to be friends before I can engage in that sort of activity. Now this is just me, like experience in that. That's just how I feel. So not until you actually dip your toe in the water will you really know what you'll act like or whatever.
Demisexuality is great, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, while we have Ferry here, your photography and do you do just stuff like that, or do you do all kinds of different photography? Like they're really well done.
Well, thank you. I very much appreciate those compliments. Thank you very much. I've been modeling for a very, very long time, and I've worked with hundreds of really talented and amazing artists around the world. And as I've kind of gotten into, some of my more recent travels, I've just discovered that I can do it too. So I've been taking a lot of the skills that I've learned from the photographers I've shot with over the years and applying them to my own kind of vision, and just giving myself, a little bit of my own creative path for like what I call self art. I don't like to call it selfie art because I'm not like looking at the camera and taking a picture. I'm creating self art.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of describe it as that, and something that is exclusive to the online communities that I post in are my Starbucks series that I don't put
Seen
anywhere
those.
online.
Great.
Those don't go up on any websites or anything like that. So that's, anytime I
Oh,
post.
we were actually discussing that earlier, how you almost boofed a Starbucks cup.
Yeah, well, I have quite the collection. It's something that I've had fun doing for a really long time. I drink a hot chocolate from Starbucks every day, and I started kind of like getting creatively naughty with the cups, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to run with this, and I have a lot of fun with it, and I have, some really cute little quirky images to share that are super cute and fun. So that's something that's kind of like just my own little sneaky, like cheeky project that I like to share in chat communities like you guys. Um, and then if I may, I do have a website. It's zanafairy.com, and anybody's welcome to go check it out. It's my professional modeling site that has a lot of my best work over the years of my career. And I'd be more than happy to share that with all of you. So once again, thank you for your compliments. I appreciate that.
Fantastic.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I'm going to go check that out afterwards.
Awesome.
But I think that wraps it up. So thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite.
Oh yeah.
Of course. Until next time, guys.